Hi everyone. Now let us start current electricity. So first let us define our electric current. So how do we define electric current? Electric current across an area perpendicular held perpendicular to the direction of the flow of charges is defined as rate of charge flow, or we can say charge flowing across area per unit time, right? Now if we define that like in mathematical terms, so if delta Q is the amount of charge which is passing through that area of cross section in delta T time, then current I is defined as delta Q by delta T. This is called our average current. If this is the total charge, this is the total time, then this is the average current. While instantaneous current, if we are talking about instantaneous current, then it is defined as limit delta T approaches 0, delta Q by delta T. And eventually this thing, when limit is delta T is approaching 0, this becomes dt and this becomes dq. So this is the formula which we need to remember, that I is nothing but it is dq by dt. If you differentiate charge with respect to time, you get the current. Now let us talk about the SI unit. SI unit of current is defined as ampere. And ampere is defined as what? So 1 ampere is 1 coulomb. Charge is coulomb per second. So 1 coulomb per second is 1 ampere. And if we are talking about, there are some other units, like if you want to use a smaller units, then we can use milliampere or microampere. Milli is 10 raised to power minus 3 ampere and micro is 10 raised to power minus 6 ampere. Now, next, let us have a look at this question. This question says that flow of a charge through a surface is given by this expression, Q is equal to 4t square plus 2t. For 0 to 2 seconds, we are defining Q is equal to that. We need to get the current through the surface at t is equal to 5. See, whenever they say at t is equal to 5, means we have to get the instantaneous current. So I am saying that I is nothing but dq by dt. So it is the d by dt, the differentiation of q. And what is q? Q is basically 4t square plus 2t. And just differentiate this. So when we differentiate, this power comes here, this becomes 8t raised to 1 plus 2t raised to 0, right? And eventually that is like 8t plus 2. And let us insert the value of time. So you put different time over here, you get the current at that time. So basically current at t is equal to 5 second is nothing but 8 into 5 plus 2 into t raised to 0. So that is 1 only. So just 2. So that is 42 ampere. Because the charge is in not given, so it is not mentioned that what is the unit of charge. So we'll assume that it is given in coulomb. So it is coulomb per second. So this is 42 ampere. So current flowing at t is equal to 5 is 42 ampere. Next is find the average current for 0 to 10 seconds. How do we get the average current? Average current is defined as delta Q divided by delta T, or you can say Q final minus Q initial by T final minus T initial. If we have a look at Q final, what is our Q final? So our Q final is nothing but the charge at T is equal to 10. Okay, so this is the charge through a surface, right? So if you put the value of 10 over here, this is 10 square, so this is 400 and this is 10 into 2, so 20, 420. So total charge which is flowing is 420 coulomb. And if we write like Q initial, that is anyway, if you put t is equal to 0, so 0 plus 0 is 0 only. So this is nothing but 420 minus 0, that is 420 over that. This is 10 minus 0, the duration is 10 seconds. And eventually we are getting 42 ampere again. See, this is the average charge. So we can say that in 10 seconds, the total current flowing, total charge flowing is 420 coulomb, and the average current is this. Now this is same at t is equal to 5 because that is a symmetric distribution. This is a parabola, so that is a symmetric distribution. That's why it is same. But it is not necessary that you will always get a same answer. Now flow of charge in different types of material. So we have 3 different types of material. What are they? First is a conductor. So what is a conductor? Materials in which basically these outer electrons of each atom or molecules, they are very weakly bounded. So the outermost shell, those electrons, they are very weakly bounded and they are free to leave the atom. So if all such electrons, they leave the atoms, they can roam in the entire material. These such electrons, they are called free electron. They are free to move throughout the body of the material, and hence they are called free electrons. So conductors are those materials which are having free electron. And what will happen if you apply electric field across such a material? So when conductors are placed in an electric field, when we apply electric field through them, so these free electrons, they experience force, and due to those force, like force on a charge is F is equal to QE. So due to that force F is equal to QE, these electron or these free electrons, they have charge. If we apply the electric field, then they will experience force, and since electrons are negatively charged, this force will be in opposite direction to the field, and eventually they will start moving in a direction which is opposite to the electric field. Now second type of material is insulator. So what are insulators? Insulators are class of materials in which electrons are tightly bounded to their respective atoms or molecules. So hence we can also say that there are no free electrons. So effectively there are no free electrons. If there are no free electrons, then such a material when placed in an electric field, so it will see whatever electrons are available, they will experience force, but those are not free electrons. So they are not free to move, and hence we will say that electrons may slightly shift opposite to the field, but they can't leave their parent atom or molecule. So we can say that hence they can't move a long distance in the material itself. So if we apply the electric field, then there are no free electron. There are electrons which can't move because they are bounded by their parent atom or respective atom very tightly, and hence there will be no flow of the electric current. So we can say such materials are also called dielectric, and dielectric it is possible that they might shift their charges, but they can't show you a flow of electric current. Next type of material or third type of material is semiconductor. So with the name itself, we can say it is half conductor. So we can say these materials, they behave as insulators given that temperature is low, and they behave as a conductor when we slightly raise the temperature. So as soon as we increase the temperature, what happens is the number of electrons that are able to free themselves, it increases, and eventually they are able to conduct electric field. Now its behavior is between a conductor and insulator, hence it is called semiconductor. Now a free electron in a semiconductor, see when these electrons, they leave their vacancy to become a free electron, they basically leave a vacancy over here, and that vacancy is called a hole. And eventually these holes, they also contribute these vacancies. These holes also help in the conduction. So holes and electrons in semiconductor, there are two things which help in conduction. One is the electron and one is holes. We will discuss more about semiconductors in the chapter semiconductor itself, which we will study later. So as of now, we'll just learn the basics, and now let us move to our next topic, that is drift velocity. What is drift velocity? So drift velocity is the average uniform velocity by which the free electrons inside a metal, by the application of an electric field which is responsible for current through it. So basically they are moving with a uniform velocity. We are assuming that they are moving with some certain velocity due to which the electric current is flowing. And who is the responsible to make them move? The electric field. So when we apply the electric field across this conductor, for example, we applied an electric field like this. Now due to this electric field, what will happen? All these electrons, they will experience force in this direction. So I am assuming they are moving in uniform with a uniform velocity, and that uniform velocity is v, small v, or you can call Vd. Vd stands for drift velocity. So I have to write the current. How do we write the current? Current is the total charge flowing per unit time. So let us say that we are talking about t time. In t time, from this cross section, the electron which starts from here itself, let us say it moves by a distance in t time. So how much distance will it move? It will move a distance of v into t, because distance is equal to speed into time, and this speed is a uniform speed. So we will say that it moves a distance dt. Now if this electron is moving over here, then one more electron which would be present over here will also reach somewhere over here. And now I can say the whatever electron is present in between this region, that electron is passing through this area of cross section. So how do we define current? Current is the total charge flown through this area of cross section per unit time. So in t time, how much is passing? So first I need to write the charge. For charge, I have to write the number of electrons. So for that, let us say that small n is the number of electrons or free electron to be precise per unit volume. So this is basically the number, it is also called the electron density. So this is number of electron per unit volume. So I'll say number of electron per unit volume into this volume, because we need all the electrons which are present in this region. What is the volume of that? Volume of this is nothing but area of cross section, that is A, and this length, that is V into T. So this is the expression for number of electron present in this region. If I multiply with E, what does E stand for? E stand for the charge. Charge on each electron, that is 1.6 into 10 raised to power minus 19 coulomb. To be precise, it is negative. But this negative sign we will adjust. We'll just write the numerical value as we are finding the current. We already know that due to this negative sign, the current and electron, basically the electrons are moving towards right and current is moving towards left. So direction is opposite. So negative sign only indicates that. We'll just put magnitude over here, divide by T, and eventually this T gets cancelled and we get an expression that I is equal to NEAV. And which velocity? Drift velocity. So NEAVD. So here I am just redefining. Let VD be the average drift speed or drift velocity across the cross section. And cross section is basically capital A, and N is the number of free electrons per unit volume. And each electron is having charge Q. So for I, we get this expression NEAVD, right? So this is an expression which you need to remember, and it is important that you remember it. So this is the expression which relates the current and drift velocity. So this VD is my drift velocity. Now let us discuss the next section, that is current density. So what is current density? So normal density is basically mass per unit volume, mass per unit area, mass per unit length. So similarly, current density is defined as current per unit area. Okay. So we'll say that it is defined as current per unit normal area, and current density is a vector quantity, while current itself is not a vector quantity. So what is the direction? Direction of current density. So direction is taken as same as the direction that of the current. Now, if we say let it be a conductor, here I current is flowing. This is the area of cross section. I am talking about this area of cross section. I is the total current which is flowing through the total area of cross section. So I'll say let current passing through this region be Di. So the J is defined as, so see, the direction of J vector is same as the direction of current, and the magnitude is defined as current per unit area. So current is how much? Current through this region is basically Di. The area of that region is dA, and N vector is just the vector in the same direction as the current, right? So we can, if you want to write current, then we can also say that the small current, this current is nothing but J into dA, and here we will have a dot product as area is a vector quantity, J is a vector quantity, and this is a scalar quantity. So this is the expression for, if you want to get total current, then total current is basically J dot the entire area vector, and this area vector has the magnitude as same as the entire cross section, while this has the magnitude of only this much. So through this region we are finding small current, through the entire area of cross section we are finding the total current. So this is how we define current density. Remember, it is a vector quantity while current is not. So current density is treated as a vector, direction is same as current, and the magnitude is total current upon total area, or it is if it is a constant, or if it is we are using the smaller things, then Di upon dA is the current density. Next is relationship between current density and drift velocity. We have already seen this expression that I is basically NEAVD. So my current density is nothing but the current per unit area. Current itself is NEAVD divided by A. So this A simply gets cancelled and we get NEVD is my J. J is the current density. And if I want to make Vd as the subject, then Vd is nothing but J upon Ne. So hence we get this expression, which you can remember, but it is better to remember I is equal to NEA Vd. And if we just divide it by A, we get this expression for J is equal to Ne Vd. Now next we have a question over here, and this question says, estimate the average drift velocity of the conduction electrons in a copper wire of cross section area 1 into 10 raised to power minus 7 meter square carrying a current of 1.5 ampere. Assume that each copper atom contributes roughly 1 conduction electron. Each atom contributes roughly 1 conduction electron. The density of copper is given over here and its atomic mass is 63.5 AMU. So they are expecting that we need to get the average drift speed. So first, these all the things are already given, and drift velocity is what? So I is NEA Vd. Now I is what? The current is given over here 1.5 ampere. So this value is 1.5, it is SI only. N is what? Number density of electrons. So it is basically number of electrons per unit volume. Now for that we need to get the number of copper atoms per unit volume. So density of copper is this, and mass of each copper atom is basically this. So how can we get? We know that mass, which is 63.5 AMU. 1 AMU is basically 6.6 into 10 raised to power minus 27 kg. So we have the mass of each copper atom, and we have the density. So density and like volume per unit volume. So I am saying that the number density of electron is basically number of atoms per unit volume. And that is, if I write mass over here, if I multiply and divide it with mass of each, what is this? This is like total mass. Mass of each into total number of atoms. So this is like total mass upon total volume. So this is like density. So density upon mass of each is my total number of molecules of copper atom, and each one is contributing 1 free electron. So that is the same as number density of free electron. Now density is 9 into 10 raised to power 3 kg per meter cube upon the mass is basically 63.5 into 6.6 into 10 raised to power minus 27 kg. So once we get the value of N from there, the charge on each electron is 1.6 into 10 raised to power minus 19 coulomb. The area of cross section is also mentioned in the given information, that is 1 into 10 raised to power minus 7, and drift velocity is Vd. If we make Vd as the subject now and solve it for Vd, then we get our answer for Vd. Now that solution can be done, just write this N value over here and solve it for Vd. Let us move to our next topic, that is Ohm's law. So what is Ohm's law? That Ohm's law's statement says that at a constant temperature, the current which flows is directly proportional to the applied voltage. Here there are two important things. One is current is directly proportional to the voltage applied across a conductor, and the temperature of the conductor has to be constant quantity. You can't change the temperature. Temperature has to be same. What if temperature changes? That we will discuss later. But the Ohm's law is valid only if temperature of the conductor is not changing. Now we can simply write V proportional to I. So this is a circuit across which what I have done is I applied a battery through which some current is flowing in this resistance, and now I am measuring. I put an ammeter which will measure this current, and eventually this is the current which is passing through this resistor. This is just a piece of conductor, and we have applied a voltmeter which is measuring the potential difference V across this resistor, right? So this as we increase the current, the V also increases, and they are directly proportional, and that is what Ohm's law statement is. So if we remove the proportionality, then we get a constant over here, and that constant is nothing but R. So V is equal to IR. This is the statement of Ohm's law, and here R is called the resistance of that conductor across which we have applied V voltage and current in that conductor is basically I. Now, what is R? R is a constant or proportionality constant which is called the resistance of the conductor or substance. Now, this law is called, this V is equal to IR is the mathematical statement of Ohm's law, and if any material is following this Ohm's law, then it is called ohmic. Otherwise, it is called non-ohmic substances. So, only generally metals or conductors, they are ohmic substances or linear substances. Why we call them linear? Because when we draw a graph of V versus I, then that graph is directly a straight line, right? Now, this expression, this is a new expression. Here we are going to derive the Ohm's law. And what is the derivation of Ohm's law? We have already discussed that I is given by NAVD. Each parameter is already explained. Now, this VD can be written as that. So, I am just at first explaining how we are getting this parameter, what are E and M and tau. So, let us talk about a piece of conductor. Now, in a piece of conductor, this piece of conductor is freely. It is free. Now, there are a lot of electrons in it, and these electrons, they are basically freely moving in any random direction and they are doing collisions and all. But overall, if you see the flow of electron, like if I make this cross section, then number of electrons going that way and number of electron going this way is same. Hence, we can say there is no net flow of electron through this area of cross section. Hence, the current is zero. So, initially in this piece of conductor, electrons are just randomly doing zigzag Brownian motion and there is no flow of current as of now. Now, what happens if we apply an electric field? As soon as we apply an electric field like this across the entire piece of conductor, then what happens is on these electrons, on each electron, they will experience a force in this direction and that will be equal to this. We already have discussed that force is equal to QE, and here this is like negative E. Small e is the 1.6 into 10 raised to power minus 19, that is called elementary charge on electron, and E. And this is my F vector. So, I'll say the force is in opposite direction because we have minus and this magnitude is small e times capital E. So, all the electrons, they would experience force in that direction. If I want to get the acceleration, then this force per unit mass. So, force is basically EE by mass is basically small m. So, this is the acceleration of each and every electron. So, all the electron, their acceleration would be that side, and even if we want to write vector, then we can write the vector like this. Now, understand that due to if a force is applied on any of the electron, what happens is that it gets accelerated. If it gets accelerated, then its velocity increases rapidly. But this velocity can't increase as soon as velocity is increasing, it will collide with some other electron. It will stop or it might come back. So, its velocity kind of assumed to be a constant velocity. So, I am applying this equation, V is equal to U plus AT, and now I am just finding the averages. Average of final velocities, average of initial velocities, average acceleration and average time. So, now I will assume that my final average velocity is nothing but drift velocity. All the electrons, finally their velocity is a single velocity called the drift velocity. What about the averages of all initial velocities? See, initial velocity is a vector quantity. And it is in all direction. Initially, they were randomly in all direction. So, each electron's velocity, there will exist another electron which will be cancelling it out. So, overall, their averages will be what? 0. What about average acceleration? The acceleration average or acceleration for each particle is nothing but EE by M. And thus, which duration we are talking about? This time duration is called tau. What is tau? Tau is called the relaxation time. So, it is that time in basically when electrons travels, they cannot travel in a straight path. There will be collisions in between them, and collision between like the time duration between any two successive collision will not be a constant. So, what you can do is you can simply write the average collision time. So, average time between any two successive collision is tau, and that is called the relaxation time. And hence, we get this expression, Vd is equal to the acceleration into time. So it's like speed is equal to acceleration into average acceleration into time. So this is the another expression for drift velocity, and that is what is written over here. Drift velocity can be written as E by m. So this is the acceleration into tau. Tau is relaxation time, and if you solve it, then eventually you get this expression. Now what can be done is potential across the conductor. If we are applying, we are saying let conductor is, so let our conductor be having length of L. If we are applying equal potential, I am calling it small l. Small l is the length of the conductor. If we are applying an electric field like this, and electric field is uniform, then the electric field is total potential difference per unit length, and potential difference across this conductor is, let it be V. So this, they are related like this. So E is V by L, and that is what I am going to replace this E from here to here. Once I put it over there, what do I get is that I is basically N E squared tau by m. So this quantity is as it is. This is A, and E becomes V by L. So V by L. Now, if you see this expression, this entire thing is a constant quantity which depends on what? It depends on the different parameters of the conductor, right? So this is I, this is number density of the conductor, which again depends whether you are taking copper, you are taking iron, different substance will have different electron number density, right? E is the charge on each electron, which is a constant. Tau is the relaxation time. Relaxation time generally depends on temperature. So we are saying, in Ohm's law, we were saying for constant temperature. So the temperature will make sure that if you increase the temperature, then electron collide more rapidly and tau decreases. But for a constant temperature, this is also a constant. M is what? Mass of each electron, which is also a constant. A is the area of cross section of the conductor, and L is the length of the conductor. So this entire thing, I am defining this thing as 1 by rho. So if this thing is 1 by rho, I get A 1 by rho and L. So this entire quantity is written over here, and this quantity is defined as 1 by R. So if what are we getting here? I is this quantity, and we know that I is equal to this entire thing I am defining as 1 by R, and this is how we are defining our resistance. So resistance, if we say, then this is V is equal to IR, V by R is I, so V is equal to IR. This is Ohm's law. Now we can further see that our resistance is basically reciprocal of this quantity. So resistance is nothing but rho L by A, and here before we define our resistance, we need to talk about rho. What is rho? This entire constant we has defined as 1 by rho. So rho is called the resistivity of the conductor. It again depends, or specific resistance, it again depends on the nature of the conductor. And what is the expression for rho? This is 1 by rho. So rho is m divided by n e squared tau. M divided by n e squared tau. And now it is also written as 1 by sigma. What is sigma? Sigma is called conductivity. So conductivity and resistivity, they are reciprocal of each other. Let's just have a look at the unit. If we are talking about unit of R, then that is ohm. If we are talking about unit of rho, then this is basically ohm meters. We have already seen that R is equal to rho L by A. So this is ohm, this is meter square, and this comes here and it is meter. So the unit of resistivity is simply ohm meter. And what about conductivity? The conductivity sigma will have a unit as reciprocal of rho. So it is per ohm per meter. Let us have a look at this question. This question says the current in a conductor is 5 ampere when the voltage between the ends of the conductor is 12 volt. First question is, what is the resistance of the conductor? So they have given us V and I, so we can simply apply Ohm's law. V is equal to IR, and hence V is what? The value of voltage is 12 volt and the current is basically 5 ampere. So we are finding resistance, and eventually resistance will be 12 by 5, that is 2.4 ohm. The SI unit is ohm. So this is the resistance of the conductor. Now next question is, what will be the current in the same conductor if the voltage is increased to 42 volt? Remember that if we are talking about the same conductor, resistance is a constant. Until and unless we change the shape, size or temperature, the resistance is not going to change. So resistance of the same piece or same piece of conductor will remain as 2.4 ohm, and the current voltage they have given as 42 volt, and now they are asking the current. So again let us apply V is equal to IR. So here I is nothing but V by R. Our voltage is 42 volt divided by our resistance, which is 2.4 ohm, and once we divide we'll get our answer. So let us simplify it. This was 12 by 5. So 35 by 2 ampere, or we can say 17.5 ampere is the current.